Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Paradoxical Outcome. And we will be talking about Magic the Gathering. And for this episode, we'll be talking about the Commander formats, Brawl formats, and also some of the cards from the recent release set of Throne of Eldraine. But before we get into that, we would like to let you know that at the moment we are doing our podcast in Just a Game Shop. So if you are in Malaysia, check out the link below to find out where we are doing our podcast, and you can come here for FNMs and other games as well. Alright, joining me today will be Tariq.
Hi.
He's one of our local players who also enjoy playing quite a few formats of Magic. And alright, let's get into it. What say you, Tariq?
Yeah, sure. Let's get into it.
Okay, so coming into the newest set of Magic, the Throne of Eldraine, we have seen a lot of new mechanics like the adventure mechanics. We have also seen quite a few dangerous cards that have come out in Standard that has recently been banned. So what do you feel about Eldraine? How do you feel that Eldraine has how has Eldraine affected Commander players?
I think it's given them a lot of new legends, a lot of new commanders, and I think it's what I really like about Eldraine is there's a lot more flavor to it, and it's really self-contained, but also some really interesting interactions, especially with the adventure mechanic.
I see. How do you find the adventure mechanic when it comes when you place that mechanic into Commander, which sees over 100 different mechanics? How do you see it being interactive in Commander?
Well, I mean, it depends on whether or not you'll see more support for it in the future, but as for now, it's actually very, there's a lot of value, right? You can cast it for instant or sorcery, and then you can cast it later for its creature. So you've got a 2-for-1 right there, which is very similar to when Ravnica or Return to Ravnica had the fuse mechanic with cards. So there's a lot of value for just one card. So it takes a slot of maybe 2 cards in your deck. So rather, so that's quite great. But of course, there's also this very interesting interaction I can talk about later. Possibility storm.
Alright, so now that we are still on the topic of Eldraine, we're going to talk about some of the cards that you Commander players might enjoy. So starting off first of the list, we have to start with the King, Kenrith. Alright, so Tariq, what is your evaluation on King Kenrith?
So I think flavor-wise, I mean, there's been quite a few cards in the set that talk about him, and in lore, I think at some point he gets turned into an elk, and then he gets turned back into a human, which is why it's called King Kenrith the Return. But I think so far he seems to me like a toolbox commander. He can do several different things depending on how the board is. I think it's some of his abilities are symmetrical. Some of it really depends on whether you want to affect one player more than the other. But I mean, come on, Nick. You're the guy who plays King Kenrith. You've got a King Kenrith deck. How about you tell us what's your experience playing with him so far?
I have a feeling if it was a bannable card, it would have been banned. Because, first of all, we have to talk about the multi-layered purpose of King Kenrith in Commander. When I first looked at the card, I was only looking at the last ability because I'm a guy who just loves playing with graveyards. But when you start adding in all these scalable abilities like the +1/+1 counters, the ability to draw a card and make someone draw a card, that in itself is the win con. And the ability to instantly reanimate, now that has caused so much problems for my play groups when it comes to dealing with my King Kenrith. Just take for example, if someone swings at you and you have a Platinum Empyrean in your graveyard, just take the damage and flash in Platinum Empyrean before damage. See if whether you have had friends after you finish the game.
So yeah, King Kenrith is quite, I wouldn't say broken, but it really I think he's quite scalable, right? It depends on how broken you want to make him, because he's essentially a 5-color commander and can do pretty much anything you want. So like a toolbox.
Yes, and despite the fact being a 5-color commander, it's actually pretty easy to cast. I can, with the usual mana rocks that you Commander players will probably put in, like your Soul Rings, like your Trance, and if you're even playing Tron Lands, this guy will probably come out turn 2, turn 3 tops, and once he comes out, if he stays, he becomes an immediate threat to the table. Yep.
So he's probably so you see him more as a commander, definitely not 99. Like more often than not, you see him as a commander, right?
I mean, you can play him at the part of 99 if you're somehow putting him into another 5-color commander. But I will say his potential is wasted there.
Yeah. So there, King Kenrith.
Potential commander. Alright, next is probably a card you probably already hate, Emery.
I actually haven't seen enough of it yet in my play group. I think that's great because I think the card has a lot of potential to really go off. I mean, for one, I think if you can find a way to untap it and then cast 0 cost artifacts and then untap Emery again, you can really go off. You've got, I think Pemin's Aura is one of those cards that can untap a creature for 1 blue. So you can just cast stuff from your graveyard. I think what you can see is probably Emery fitting into a deck that has affinity.
Yeah.
Right? So you can cast stuff for really cheap as well coming out of it. Of course, the dream would be, for example, being able to cast the Black Lotus or Lion's Eye Diamond or any of the Moxes, untap Emery, do it again, and it just really goes off. So things like I think one of the things that really would have really led to Paradox Engine's banning, if not Urza, would have been this one.
Yeah, would have been Emery.
Emery would have led to the banning of Paradox Engine because of how much value you can create from it. What do you think about it?
For me, I've always been looking at ways to break commanders in the way that it's not normally broken. But I've been finding it hard to fit Emery into anything that's not an artifact deck.
Yeah,
definitely. It's a bit hard. What would you think? I mean, you play Jang too. How would you play Emery if without artifacts?
You know what? I actually cannot see it fitting yet because a lot of its abilities are really about artifact. Probably the only thing I would see its ability other than artifacts would be if you want to self-mill.
Yes.
So you bounce her repeatedly to self-mill yourself with something like Deadeye Navigator. But other than that, I actually don't see much other use for Emery other than that so far.
Yeah. Where would you see Emery if it was part of a 99? Memnarch
Commander.
Oh lord.
Yeah. I don't have a Memnarch myself, but I could definitely see Emery.
Remember his face, guys, when he plays Memnarch. You know what's coming. Alright, let's move on to the third on our list is Ayara.
First of Lock Twain.
First of the Lock Twain.
Yes.
So what do you think about Ayara?
So I think what's interesting about Ayara, if you notice, that she's an elf noble. So this is, if you notice, more and more wizards have started including elves to include not only red but also black as part of black and green and that kind of thing, which is very interesting. But I think so because of that, she might be suited for 99, but also like if you're creating a lot of tokens, you're creating like a lot of zombies, strangely enough, then I would probably see a place for her. I mean, she does give some potential towards like life loss and all that, but I mean 3 black, that's pretty heavy. So I mean you will probably see this in a mono black commander deck. Yeah. I think you might.
I think one of the potentials I've seen with Ayara is in a reanimation shell.
Okay.
You consider this, if you find a way, for example, you play Buried Alive, you put Ayara in with some of your key components that you want to come out with the aristocrat damage, right?
Yeah.
And then you play Living End.
Yep. Or Living Death. Yep.
So if you have a graveyard strategy and you just want to kill your opponents all at once, I would say that a Living End or Living Death would be more than enough, or at least detrimental enough to keep them to single digits lives.
Yeah. I mean, if you bring them all in at once, I mean, bring in something like...
Plus, you'll be gaining a bunch of life anyway, so your life total's already shot up.
Yeah. Oh, so that means that could also work not necessarily with Living Death and Living End. I think you can mitigate that with Command the Dreadhorde.
Yes.
So, I mean, you'll take the life loss first, so you better make sure you don't die to Command the Dreadhorde. But if you remain alive after it resolves, the life, you will gain back the life from Ayara.
Yeah. Another thing to note would be if you pull off the combo early enough in the game, Reservoir is still a thing.
Actually, that's a very good point.
Aether Flux Reservoir, guys, for you guys who don't know, you pay 40 life or 50 life? 50 life, and you do 50 damage to target player. So if you really hate a friend and you pull off the combo early enough, well, they're no longer your friend. Alright. Ayara, do you think you will use her as a part of a 99?
Yeah. I think she could do pretty well because I think a lot of mono black decks tend to be aristocratic anyway. So I think she could fit in. 3 black is quite heavy, but 3 black in a mono black deck is not bad. I mean, it's just 1 dark ritual.
It's turn 3 or turn 1.
Yeah, it could be turn 1. Yeah, Dark Ritual.
Yeah. But I see one of the limitations of Ira is that her second ability, whereby she taps to sacrifice a black creature.
Yeah.
For me, I feel the color limitation kinds of demotes of her bit of her playability.
Yeah.
If she could sacrifice any creature and draw a card, ooh,
Yeah.
I think her price point will be way higher.
Yep, definitely.
Definitely way higher.
Definitely.
Okay. Alright, next on our list, we have a familiar tribal, a goblin. And needless to say, it's Grum Gully the Generous.
Yep. So this one comes in what? Each non-human creature you control comes into the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter to it, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, what do you think, Nick, so far? Because I think so. What I think is the card is a great enabler with persist.
Yes.
Right? So things like Woodfall Prime. We're just talking about it. Woodfall Primus. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target non-creature permanent. It has persist. So persist says whenever it dies, and if it doesn't have a -1 counter on it, it enters the battlefield again with a -1 counter on it.
Yeah.
So if you have a sack outlet, Grum Gully, and Woodfall Primus, you could just blow up all non-creature permanents your opponents control, because what happens is it dies and then it comes back with a -1/+1 counter and a +1/+1 counter, and Magic rule says that with a +1/+1 counter and a -1/+1 counter, they cancel each other out.
Yep.
Which means that you can just keep looping it until you blow up, something that Nick likes to do, blowing up all your opponent's lands.
I'm sorry, but it's an addiction. Well, for Grum Gully also combos with one of the classic commander combos, usually with Triskelion and Mikaeus, but now you can do it with Grum Gully and Triskelion and a sack outlet. Or actually, without even a sack outlet, you can probably still pull it off.
Yeah. I mean, you can ping one more with Triskelion,
Yes.
because it comes in with an additional +1/+1 counter. And actually, that brings up a really good point, because if you look at there's also a tribal set that can make use of Grum Gully. So in case you don't want to go with goblins, so like Ward, the Raid Mother, and all the red-green goblins, you can go with modular.
Yep.
So all the modular creatures come in with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. So that makes it possible for things like Hangerback Walker, Walking Ballista, all those things just come in with additional +1/+1 counters, and then they just stack up. Outbound Ravager.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another thing also is for the budget players, this is actually a very good commander to start with, considering that first of all it's an uncommon. And if you choose to have a budget deck, you can always just go for the +1/+1 counter route with Hardened Scales game plan. It's a pretty easy scalable deck and quite threatening when left unchecked.
Yep, it can really go. I mean, there's so many +1/+1 enablers in this. In not only this, but if you look at the previous set, there was Mowu, and then there was the Proliferate brought back.
And you still have Jiang Yangu.
Yeah, Jiang Yangu.
Yeah. Anyway, +1/+1 counters in overall is pretty much a budget build anyway. I mean, of course, without those crazy expensive mana acceleration and the mana rocks, but in general, in terms of creature quality and your late game scalability, it's there.
Hydras.
Hydras. Oh yeah, Hydras.
Genesis Hydra, all those.
All the fun stuff your friends would like.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have one of current staple in standard, I would say, Rankle, Master of Pranks.
Yeah, it's got Flying Haste.
And embodies Liliana.
Yeah. And it's got 4? It's like a flying planeswalker.
Yeah, technically.
Right? It is, because it has 4 different modes. Everyone discards a card, everyone sacrifices a creature.
Each player discards a card, each player loses 1 life and draw a card.
Yep.
Or each player sacrifices a creature.
Yeah.
Technically Liliana of the Veil without the 3-digit price tag.
Yeah.
With the condition of you hitting the player first.
Yeah, so I mean that's a common theme we see here. If you look at Rankle's CMC, it's only 4. I think a later card we'll look at is Questing Beast. I think this set has printed quite a number of, castable cards for only 4 CMC. So I think Rankle's a great choice for Voltron, for control builds.
Even for stacks, I would say.
Yeah, there is a potential for stacks, provided you can find a way to keep a creature on the board. You can just sacrifice that creature and have everyone else sacrifice their creatures as well. It's just crazy.
I actually see a very funny synergy with Heartless Summoning and Staring Bridge. If you bring that power low enough, and you really want to wreck your opponent, Heartless Summoning brings it out on turn 3, if you want.
So what does Heartless Summoning do?
Heartless Summoning reduces creature cost by 2, but with the offset that all your creatures get -1/-1.
Yeah.
Or is it -2/-2?
I think it's -1/-1, if
Yeah.
I recall correctly.
Well, the card on our floating card will probably let you know.
Yep.
Yeah, but with that, you can probably stop your opponent's big creatures from wrecking you, continuously smack them with Rankle, and slowly dwindle their hand, dwindle their life, or just clear the board eventually.
Yeah, I mean, it's got evasion, right?
Yeah.
And is quite difficult to handle on its, on its own. I mean, sure, it's 3/3 body, but
Yeah.
Even when your opponents at that stage, they wouldn't have big bodies that can block it without dying, for example.
I think my real fear for it is when Rankle gets equipped with swords.
Yeah, that's that, or double strike and things like that. It just
Basically, it's pretty much modifiable. It's very customizable.
yeah. But I think so far from the way we're discussing, Rankle seems to be more of a potentially Voltron-y build, where he just takes you out and just gets you sooner rather than later, I guess, with swords, equipments, Black Blade Reforged, for example.
So it's a pretty much utility commander, I would say. Yeah, many uses.
Yep, many uses. Yeah, I can see a lot of use for it. I think Rankle can also fit in a 99.
Yeah.
Although, I think that'd be a waste.
It will be just a value play, I would say.
Yeah.
Value play.
3/3 flying, potentially blocker, but you want it to attack.
Yeah, you need it to attack, and I guess if you can pair it up with gold, then all the more. All right, next on our list is a color that probably half the Magic population hates: blue.
Hashtag ban islands.
Yes.
I don't know. So I think this is probably one of the few legendary creatures in the set that I'm actually not thrilled about. I
Yes.
think at best it helps you draw cards.
The card we're talking about will be Gatwick the Wizened.
Yep. Yeah. Gadwig the Wizard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's three blue and X.
Yeah,
And then
X and 3 blue mana. When Gatwick the Wizened enters the battlefield, draw X cards. Whenever you cast a blue spell, tap target non-land permanent and opponent controls
yeah.
with a body of 3/3.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even get its power enough to be XX, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of poor. It doesn't have evasion. The most it really gets you is draw ability. And the terrible thing is for the card, if you look at it, it says enters the battlefield. There's no cast trigger, unlike Hydroid Krasis, the bane of Simic standard right now.
But if we go back to basics and look at what makes a blue card useful for your deck in mono blue, it does the thing whereby it's scalable. It has okay body 3/3.
Yeah.
For 3, I would say if you don't pay the X.
Yeah.
It draws you cards if you want to.
Yeah.
And it does have abilities to deal with certain threats on the board, if only temporary.
Yep.
But when it comes to the scale of commander, I would say probably it's not enough.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason why I bring up the fact that the ETB is necessary for it to draw cards is, so the thing is when you cast Hydroid Krasis, no matter what, even if they counter Hydroid Krasis, you still gain the life and you still draw the cards, unless they counter the ability from the cast ability, right? The triggered ability. Gadwick, he needs to enter the battlefield. So if they counter it, you don't draw any cards at all. That's number one. Number two, if you cheat him out somehow, you draw no cards at all, and he's still quite terrible, I think. And I think the last ability, so sometimes one of the advantages the blue has in terms of mono blue has in terms of dealing with other creatures is the ability to tap them down, and then they don't untap during the controller's next untap stat, right? Which means it has control over tempo.
Yeah.
This is not even that. Like the best it can do is take out a blocker,
Yes.
and that's it. The thing will still be able to untap the next untap step. So
Yeah, it's pretty surprising considering that it is taking up a rare slot. We will at least expect the tap ability to at least keep them tapped for a turn, which will make sense. At least then, as a commander, you have some kind of stacksy build.
yeah, I mean, mono blue needs ways to deal with threats on the board, and that just takes away, one of the I guess one of the less broken things about blue
Yes.
sometimes. Yes.
In my opinion, I would say Gatwick in Powder 99 would be a Blue Sun Zenith on a stick that does not go back to your deck.
Yeah, I mean it's not a it's for me. To be honest, I mean it would be hard for me to even include him in the 99 for a lot of blue decks. It's okay, but it's only really if you wanna create like a Throne of Eldraine commander commander deck, then by all means do that. But otherwise,
I would like to add, however, that it will probably do well in a wizard tribal deck because it's still a wizard anyway, and as part of the 99 in a wizard tribal, it probably values a bit higher than some other wizards.
Actually, I do want to bring up something though. I think someone brought up that there is an issue with the X value thing with the interaction with Magic, and that unless Wizards of the Coast, I think, changes the comprehensive rules somewhat, technically you don't get to draw X cards. I think it has to do with the fact that the X value is only seen when it's casted on the stack, right? And things like that. I think we can double check that later, but I think so far that might be a real thing.
I mean, post in the comments below if you guys know what the answer for this is, or if you guys have interacted with this before. Okay, next on our list we have Yorvo, Lord of Garenbrick.
Yep, this is the giant.
Yes, very straightforward.
Yeah. He comes in with 3+1 counters whenever... Is it another green creature?
Yeah, another green creature comes in, get a +1/+1 counter. If the creature has a higher power than the Yorvo, another +1/+1 counter.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have evasion, but he definitely gets big. And I think if you're talking about green, there's always ways to give things trample.
And we all know green is big. Green is always big.
Green is huge. So I think this is... I mean, for 3 CMC, 3 green, obviously he would have to be part of a dedicated green deck.
Yep.
Right? Or a heavy, like at best a 2-color deck. It's harder to put him in more than 2 colors, really.
But when coming in with commander damage, I would say Yorvo has a pretty deadly potential with Avenger of Zendikar.
I mean, he has a high ceiling. Yeah, he has a high ceiling in terms of damage, and actually pretty decent floor as well. I mean, he comes in as a 3/3 already for 3 mana, so I think he's all right. I mean, you just had to find ways to give him trample or get him evasion, but I think he's quite great. So I would probably see him. As we mentioned earlier with Grumgully, actually they can work pretty well together. Yorvo can be part of the 99 for Grumgully. He comes in bigger because he's not a human. He's a giant. So, are there many? I don't think there are that many green giants. Are there in the set? I mean, no. Overall, like in the history of Magic, so far they've been mostly red. I think there was a commander set where it's red white. Yep. And I think there was.
I think there were some white giants in Terros, I think.
Yeah, there were. Yeah. But I mean, overall, this set is printed has pretty much, I think, doubled the number of green giants in Magic so far, because you've got the giant that can look for a land, right? I think, is it Rum Cloaked? I think it might be Rum Cloaked Giant.
I can't remember. I don't really play with giants.
God. Okay.
Yes. One of the things I was looking with Yorvo is if you have a way to like liquid metal coating Yorvo into an artifact and try to get his counters off through the modular ability, that actually gives you a potential for a very different line of play, but it will surprise your group.
I didn't see that coming.
Exactly.
Okay? This is the kind of jank I expect from you. That's actually a really good point. I mean, if you find a way to modular. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, the +1/+1 counter thing is a very budget build. So you can still build Yorvo for cheap.
Yep. Very cheap. And also very painful to your opponents if they don't block it.
It's actually quite interesting because you can play Yorvo with Peer. So Peer is this card from Battle Bond that says whenever a counter will be put on a permanent you control, you add 1 more to it. And this one triggers twice. So actually 3 times. So basically, let's say you have Peer out and you play Yorvo, he comes in with 3 +1 counters +1. So that's 4. If a green creature comes in, it gets 2 +1 counters rather than just 1. So he has the potential to get huge if you've got things like Doubling Season, Peer, especially Hardened Scales.
Yeah, definitely with Hardened Scales.
Yeah, so it's just actually quite insane.
Yeah, it can get big, and commander damage is only what, 21?
It's only 21.
It's only 21, so give it double strike, Okay. Another card on our list which is also green but doesn't sound like a commander.
Yeah. Questing Beast for
For 4 mana, 2 generic and 2 green.
yeah.
Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste. Can't be blocked by creatures 2 or less with power 2 or less. Combat damage that will be dealt to creatures you control will be prevented.
Cannot be
prevented.
Yeah.
And when Questing Beast does combat damage to the player, you can also damage the Planeswalker for the same amount.
Yeah. This card is insane.
Yeah.
In so many ways. Much like Rankle, this is a 4 CMC creature. This is probably an example of power creep in Magic, right? It used to be once upon a time for 6 mana, you could only cast Crawworm, which is a 6/4 with not even trample. Nowadays, for 4 mana, you can cast a 4/4 with Vigilance, Death Touch, and Haste.
Yes.
That's quite scary. And you can't even block it normally with a. You can't block it with a 1/1. You can't block it with a 2/2. You can't block it with walls because most walls start with 1 or 0 power. So walls can't stand in the way of a Questing Beast. It's actually quite insane.
Yeah, if there was a warehouse sale for value, this card will be the warehouse sale green version of value.
Yeah, I mean it's quite expensive right now because I think it's quite very playable in standard.
Yeah. Mono green builds, yeah.
Mono green builds, I've seen in ghoul builds as well. It's very scary. And
it's hard to, and if you don't deal with it, it deals with you.
Yeah. And the best part is it removes the part of the option that you face sometimes, when you're an aggressive player and someone's playing Planeswalkers, which is, do you swing the player or do you swing the Planeswalker? Nah, with this creature you can just swing at the player.
Yep.
And if it gets through, I will also deal damage to your Planeswalker. So that's kind of insane. And the best part is also when it says combat damage your creatures deal cannot be prevented, is that it deals with things like fog. It
Spore
deals
frog.
with protection.
Yeah.
Right? Creatures with protection from green will still take damage from Questing Beast, things like that. So it's quite amazing.
Yeah. One of the things to note is that Questing Beast, if you just add equipments on it or anything, technically any Planeswalker your opponent puts down just gets obliterated on the combat step.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, the only thing that's missing from it in terms of word salad is Menace.
Yes.
Right? And the fact that it has Death Touch means that you can just ping each one for 1 and each one will die.
Yes.
So, but yeah, 4 CMC, very efficient. You should definitely pick one up before it spikes.
I mean, at the current price, it's probably quite pricey for the average player to get
it's actually about $40.
So
right
if you
now.
do crack packs and you do get it, good luck. You're gonna have a fun time with this commander.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Alright, the last on our list, well, not actually last, there's technically 5 more. It's the Sir cycle in Throne of Eldraine.
I like to call this like a sir.
Like a Sir.
So which one do you want to start with?
I think we'll start off with the more commander looking one, which is the Brawl set from the Brawl sets.
Okay.
The Sir Gwyn, Hero of Ashvale, for 3 generic mana and red, white, and black. We have Vigilance Menace. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Equipments you control have equipped Knight 0, means free for knights, with a body of 5/5.
It's an alright commander. Like 5/5 Vigilance Menace for 6 mana is reasonable. It's not as crazy as Questing Beast was. Obviously, this is meant to synergize both Knight Tribal and Equipment Tribal, because technically, with things like Sigarda's Aid and things like that, it just still becomes quite possible for you to swing.
Yes.
I think she's alright, but I mean, I'm not sure if I would go out of my way to really build around her. I mean, it's great if you picked up a Brawl deck, and you can tell us how it goes so far. But what do you think, Nick?
Well, from how I look at it, you can actually manipulate the second ability quite nicely. Now imagine this scenario whereby you have this commander out and you have, say, the shapeshifter that changes all creature types.
Oh, mirror entity.
Yes, mirror entity. So now, assuming that you have a token build with mirror entity, you can skull clamp to each of those tokens and just draw cards willy-nilly for 0.
Wow.
And that's 2 cards net per creature. So with Skull Clamp, you can equip it to each of your so-called token night creatures after the shapeshift, after entity is out, and you net 2 cards per creature for free. Now, considering that you also have black in the commander identity, Ayara can be part of 99. And then from there, you start generating a lot of value, putting down creatures, getting knights. So if you don't feel like playing the Voltron build, there are ways to actually play around her.
And also, there's this really old card. I think you're familiar with it. I think it's either one of the cats, one of those cards that you can equip at instant speed.
Yes, one of the Shikaris, I remember.
Yeah, I think it's one of the cats, right?
Yeah.
You can equip Flash,
yes,
which is amazing for switching cards over. I mean, I think the great thing about her is she can be a Voltron build.
Yep.
And actually, if you've got the equipment out, you can just shift it among. So you can swing with everything, with equipments on various nights, and then suddenly, and with that creature out, you can just switch it over to whichever one's likely to deal damage.
Exactly. And you can also do this at instant speed with Sigada's aid.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So anyway, 5/5 body is quite big. It's not a small commander. It hits hard.
It hits very hard,
and it gives you card advantage, which is actually quite hard to get in a Mardu color setting.
That's true, actually. That's very true. Like getting sure you lose life, but you're in white, right? There's many ways for you to gain life. You're in black, so many ways to gain life as well.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you've got swords.
And another thing is, even if you don't have the money to create a competitive deck, there's a lot of cheap equipments that you can probably gain value with. Because when you have your equipment at equip 0, it instantly becomes so much more valuable.
Yeah, even if it's equip 1, right? I mean, you let's say, I think from Dominaria, short sword, +1/+1, equip 1 mana to cast. You just put it on a knight and you attack with it with her out. You draw a card and you lose 1 life. I mean, that's still good value.
Yep.
Right? Compared to, so like, let's compare that to something like Phyrexian Arena, which is a great card normally, but you can know only during your upkeep, you draw a card, you lose 1 life. That's it.
Yep.
But with other knights out, so if you go with a go white strategy with equipments, it just lets you just get so much cards in your hand.
And all that value, man.
Yeah,
all
so
that
much,
value.
So much.
And next in our Sir cycle, we'll go to the Black Sir.
Oh, this is my favorite of all the Sirs so far. So I think one thing that I've noticed is that, I think we've all noticed is that this deck, this set, Throne of Eldraine, is quite heavy in a particular color. And I think that was very apparent in that mechanic Adamant, right? Adamant meaning that if you cast 3 or more mana of a certain color, you get an additional benefit or
right?
effect. Yeah, effect next to it. So I think what I love about, Conrad and Rankle and all that is that, you've got a lot more mono black decks, Ayara, to work with.
Yeah, and it rewards players who just love their mono colors.
Yeah. I think ever since, Iona.
Yes, Iona.
Iona got banned, I think it's because you've got a lot more space now to build monocolor decks, which I'm very happy with. So right now what we see so far with Conrad is that, so what are the abilities of Conrad?
Alright, Conrad says, whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than a battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. Its secondary ability, 1 generic and 1 black mana. Each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard.
Yeah. So I think this deck is all about things entering the graveyard or leaving the graveyard, right? So there's many things you can... Okay, so there's many things you can really do about it. I think so far, so just to give some context, I play currently Sir Conrad in my Kirik mono black deck. It's there's obviously it's got the Aether Flux combo, but one of the combos I put in is Sir Conrad and one of the cards you mentioned earlier, Living Death. So the idea is that you've got creatures in your graveyard and you've got Sir Conrad on your battlefield. If you cast, so let's say you've got 10 cards in your graveyard, right? And then you've got Sir Conrad in the battlefield, just maybe one creature, maybe your opponent don't have any creatures at all. You cast Living Death. So Living Death says you exile creature cards from your graveyard, and then you sacrifice creature cards in the. I think you sacrifice creatures in the battlefield, and then those creature cards that were exiled come into the battlefield, right? So with those creatures leaving the battlefield already, that's 10 damage, right, to each opponent. And then I think when you sacrifice, well, I mean, Sir Conrad without having creatures out isn't great. But let's say he just comes in, right? And then those creatures come in. So there's so much value that you can have from Sir Conrad.
Yes.
And
especially when you start having Pain Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat on the field, you are probably netting a lot of damage.
Correct. And I think one card that really enables Sir Conrad and enables the Pain Train to continue is Mindcrank.
Oh yes, Mindcrank.
So Mindcrank says whenever an opponent loses life, they mill the top, cards from the library equal to the amount of life lost they take. So the thing about Conrad is that whenever a creature enters the graveyard from anywhere but the battlefield as well, it triggers, which is why like the last ability helps mill, right?
Yeah.
So all you need to do to keep it going is for one of your opponent's cards to be milled to be a creature, and it keeps going. So
That's true.
Yeah.
And once again, it is a big body. It's a 5/4.
Yeah, it is. It is a 5/4. Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Yes. All right. Next on our list, we have the Blue Sir.
Oh.
The Sir Eleonora the Discerning, also at 5 mana.
Yep. I think her power is equal to the number of hands cards in your hand.
And when she enters the battlefield, she will draw a card.
Yeah.
And the most interesting part is the spells your opponent casts that target Sir Eleonora cost 2 more to cast.
Yeah. So it's not quite hexproof, but it makes things a lot harder for your opponents to deal with.
Yes.
I mean, the best thing is that even if you have no cards in hand, when you cast her, she enters the battlefield, she will be at least a 1/4. So she's not, and that's good in and of itself.
But considering if you were a blue player, you're definitely going to have more than 3 to 4 cards in hand.
Yeah.
And if you were to look at Sir Eleonora, and if you are trying to find ways to break her that you don't normally do, if if instead of just playing a control shell, if you can find a way to enchant Sir Eleonora with a enchantment that pulls in instant or sorceries, in a way it creates a sort of a mini stacks effect, and it starts controlling the board.
Yeah, so you're thinking of something like Spellskite. So if you can make it so your opponents have to target Eleonora. I think I recall there was this cycle in one of the earliest sets of Magic where there's a creature type called Flag Bearer, and then the idea is that whenever your opponent would cast a spell that would target a creature you control other than a Flag Bearer, they must target a Flag Bearer first. So that's one way that's one, I think, mechanic. I think if I recall correctly, there was an enchantment that lets you make a creature a Flag Bearer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's in white, so you can't use it if you're playing mono blue Eleonora.
Yeah.
But actually, so I think one card that this might go really well with. So blue has a lot of draw spell effects.
Yes.
You've got Blue Sun Zenith. So actually, you can sneak out. I mean, if you can get her to be evasion, so flying, unblockable, all those kind of things, you can swing. And they're thinking, opponent's thinking, I'll probably take 3 damage, so I won't do anything. And then you just do something like Blue Sun Zenith for like 5.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they're taking 8 to 9 damage, and that's pretty close. So Eleonora might do one of the few things that that you rarely see in blue decks, which is a Voltron deck.
And I think another thing you will see is that she's actually a good complement for Nif Mizzet decks.
Yeah.
Considering that Nif Mizzet lets you draw, and you do damage to Nif Mizzet anyway. But if you were swinging with Sir Eleonora and with Nif Mizzet effects like Expand Explosion, you're going to do tons of damage and a surprise hefty swing from Eleonora to finish out the game.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think she combos quite well with a card from that cycle of legendary artifacts, the Magic Mirror.
The Magic Mirror, yeah.
Correct. So Magic Mirror is an artifact. I think 3 blue, 6 colorless. It costs 1 less, 1 generic less for each instant sorcery in your graveyard.
Yep. And you have no maximum hand size.
No maximum hand size, which is great for Eleonora.
Yeah.
And then the last ability is at the beginning of your upkeep, put a knowledge counter on Magic Mirror, then draw a card for each knowledge counter. So if you can get the Magic Mirror to stay on the battlefield long enough with Eleonora out, she gets bigger. She gets a lot bigger, you get the card advantage. So that's
but usually the game is already pretty much over once Magic Mirror stays for more than 3 or 4 turns.
Yeah.
Because the blue player has so much advantage.
Basically, if you see someone playing a Magic Mirror, you're not either A,
break that mirror,
copying it yourself, or B, getting rid of it, then you're doing something wrong. And I think so. I mean, talking about Magic Mirror it's a great card. And if you're talking about knowledge counters, something that happened in the last set, as we pointed out, is proliferate.
Yes.
So you've got Flux Channeler, you've got, I think there was that Evolution Sage.
Yes.
Right? Land until the battlefield.
But even if you're not talking about the recent sets, do not forget that famous blue proliferate enchantment called Inexorable Tide.
Yes. Correct.
So yeah, it can get pretty insane, especially if you're a blue player. I mean, one counter wall, and next thing you know, you have 10 knowledge counters.
Yeah, because they think, oh, you're only drawing one card, right?
Yeah.
No, I think I'll draw more than just 2 cards next turn.
I think I'll draw maybe like 10% of my deck each turn.
Yes, yes. Which
Alright.
works well with Jace.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. That will be for a different day.
Yeah, different day.
Alright. Next, we have one of my favorite colors, red. I think it's your favorite color too.
Yeah.
Sir Kara the Bolt, another 5 mana legendary knight. When Sir Kara the Bolt or an instant of sorcery you control deals damage to a player, exile the top card of your library and you may play this card the turn. And she has a tap ability that does 1 damage to any target.
I mean,
11 minutes, yeah. Okay, continue.
yeah. So I think this is one of those times where I thought like, I think red got pretty screwed in the cycle actually. 5 mana for a 3/3 body is quite terrible.
Yes.
It doesn't have haste, no evasion. The only thing it has is the last ability, which is a tap ability.
Yeah.
And even the first ability isn't great. It's quite conditional. Either she has to deal damage to a player or an instant sorcery, right? And even and you exile it, and you still have to pay the cost to play it, right? You don't get to cast.
Yeah.
You don't get to cast it for free, which would have been super broken actually.
Yes.
But
I would say that one improvement for this card should have been if the tap ability and she has an untap effect whereby whenever you play a instant sorcery, she untaps. At least it will make it more playable. But thinking of it, you are in the color red and you need to be the aggressor. This is not an aggressive card.
well, so I think part of what I've figured out, or what my opinion about Throne of Eldraine is with the introduction of food, is that they wanted to slow down red aggro decks.
Yeah.
Right? Because the previous set had Steamkin, had Experimental Frenzy, and actually with Fires of Invention, red's a little bit less aggro and a little bit more value. So I think that's the direction they were going in for red this set. I think the only red deck that really the only red card that really enables, well, 2 aggression is Embercleave and Torbrand.
And don't forget Cavalcade.
Yeah. Well, Cavalcade was last set. That was last set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking about fast aggro decks. We still have Red Cavalcade, which still does quite a lot of damage in 4 turns.
Correct. I mean, but for the purposes of like red, they didn't want to give red any more.
Yes.
So I think that was really the direction they were going in.
Yeah.
But sometimes, so I've been playing Magic for a while now, and this seems to me like a Mercadian Mask like response to how fast Urza block was.
Yeah.
So similarly, because of how fast red has been so far, and it's still quite prevalent in standard today actually.
Yep.
They've overcompensated by trying to make red less fast.
Yeah. I feel that, in the effort to slow down red, they didn't really buff up the other colors. Because red by design was created, to be fast, and it's supposed to hit where it counts, because after turn 5 it just dies.
Yeah, I mean, right now, as we can see in standard, blue-green Simic, tempo and all that is really dominating because of, even despite red, because it's able to hold out, and thanks to food, all you need is 1 food, gain 3 life, and that already takes out maybe 1 combat stat, 1 turn from, that gets you another turn from a red player. Yeah.
Alright, moving on from one bad card to another bad card, or maybe less bad, up to you, would be the white Sir cycle. Is Sir Ellen, the Lion's Claw. Comes with first strike, and whenever Sir Ellen, the Lion's Claw attacks, other creatures you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and it comes with a 4/4 body.
I don't think this card's as bad as you say it is. I think the great thing about all the Sirs is that they're all knights. However, if you notice, so she's a 4/4 body, so the same CMC, so all of them are pretty much the same CMC, right? And comes with a 4/4 body and first strike. So I think that's decent enough actually for 5 CMC. That's a decent return. And the last ability is great for weenies and knights, especially this card is part of the 99 for that earlier Mardu commander.
For me, the way I look at it, it's more of a very conditional, I would say altar or tribute, because it doesn't give +1/+1 counters. It's only until end of turn. You see, if it gave counters, I will understand. That it has more value there.
That
But
would be broken.
I mean,
Get +1/+1.
for a conditional anthem that costs 5 mana, I would say there are better cards,
yeah.
especially in Commander.
But I think for the purposes of Brawl, it's quite a decent, I think, return for it.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when you consider, I think one of the cards in that cycle of artifacts, Circle of Loyalty, where knights get +1/+1, and so there are ways to get knights. I mean, they're trying to make knights more viable.
Yeah.
It was, I think, in Dominaria, you had Ariel, the black-white commander, the black-white legend with vigilance, the ability to make knights, the ability to kill creatures with power less than the number of knights you control.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're trying to have a lot more support for knights than they had before.
Well, I guess you could use it as part of 99, but as a commander, probably not.
I mean, you could if you want to build a budget.
Budget build.
Mono
Right?
white tribal knight build, and there are plenty of knights, white knights in the history of Magic. Going back to, I think actually the first card would have been White Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been White Knight.
It would have been White Knight, as well as Black Knight. They had different stuff. Yeah.
All right. For our last night cycle would be Sir Farron, the Handchammer, coming at the cheapest cost of 2 green. Whenever Sir Farron, the Handchammer attacks, another target attacking creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Sir Farron's power.
2 mana,
2/2.
2/2. You know what this reminds me of? Isamaru, Hound of Conda.
Yes.
2/2, right? Like early on, commander damage. You just whack whoever doesn't have a blocker. That's already 2 commander damage.
Exactly.
It's in green. You can give it trample.
And it buffs other creatures.
It buffs another creature. And obviously, if it gets bigger, that other creature gets bigger.
Yeah.
So there are many ways. I mean, obviously, you need to kind of go a bit wide. It's definitely made for combat. Doesn't have evasion. So there are some pros and cons to it.
But it's a very simple build. It's either a Voltron build or Enchantress build.
Yeah. So I think it'll be alright. If you can get swords on her though,
Yes.
then it gets super crazy after a while.
Then you start giving it a lot of evasion.
Yeah. So you give it the evasion.
Yeah. Plus you get the sword effects, which is going to give you incremental advantage anyway.
Yeah. So that's every possibility for double green. So it's more likely to be like, as with the case with multiple mana symbols, more in a dedicated mono green or heavily green deck. Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that's our segment for the Throne of Eldraine area. The next topic we'll be talking about will be Brawl as a format.
I like Brawl. In the sense that I think, well, I love EDH Commander most of all.
Yes.
So what I see Brawl is and even Oathbreaker.
Yes.
Is an entry level to Commander.
Or a halftime between Commander games.
Correct. Yeah. Halftime between Commander games.
Yeah.
I think probably one of the things that I kind of like but don't like from Brawl was the Brawl decks having that signet.
Yeah, the
Arcane
signet. Yeah.
Meaning that if you want to build a Brawl deck that wasn't one of the Brawl decks that they offered, you're already at a disadvantage unless you can buy yourself an Arcane Signet.
Yeah.
Because Arcane Signet is a 2 mana mana rock that taps for any color in your commander's color identity.
Yeah.
Which is a big card, right? It's like better than Mindstone.
One of the interesting I see is that Brawl being a casual format, or is being pushed as a casual format, but it's still a 60 card format, you see.
Yeah.
So do you think we will see future in this into events like in GPs, Magic Fest?
I think it's I think I like what you said earlier. Like, this is halftime between games.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it'll be. I don't think it'll pick up as much traction as like it will not take away from standard or modern or historic or all those other stuff. I think it'll just be something on the side, obviously very casual, but I don't see it growing much more than EDH, because then the question is, well, I mean, one of the difficulties that commander players face is if I'm building 100 and I have to cut down to about 60-ish cards, right? That's one of the hardest things to really cut off. 60 cards, same problem. And you're figuring, why make it a 60 card deck when I can just make it a 100 card deck and just play eternally? The thing about Brawl is that it's a part of a rotating set.
So
right?
do you see Brawl having the same issues that Tiny Leader had?
Who? What?
What?
tiny leader?
What are these small miniature leaders?
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, I'm pretty sure there will always be a niche group that will want to play it. But I think the one thing that Brawl has in favor of it is a sheer amount of support that Wizards of the Coast is giving the format.
Yeah.
Unlike Tiny Leaders. I think Tiny Leaders got very little support because I think it was just around that time that Wizards decided, hey, you know what, Commander, let's give more support. So it's not just about selling products anymore. Let's make it a lot more heavy support in terms of card design, set design. So I think nowadays, if you look at the design that they have for their artifacts and their creatures, if you look at Dominaria, how many legends they had, I think they were considering what impact they would have on the Commander meta.
Yeah. But
Hashtag unban Paradox Engine.
well, tough luck with that.
21 minutes, guys.
Alright. Okay, so before we go on to the next section, don't forget to, once you're watching this channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And if you do have any comments for us, don't forget to put it in the comments below. Okay, let's
Okay,
Yep.
take a break. Okay.
take a break. Yep. Alright, so we have reached the end of the episode, so let's take a quick recap on what we've gone through throughout the whole podcast. First, we were talking about Eldraine as a set and also its cards in Commander, how it affects Commander. We talk about several of the legendary cards in Eldraine and their possibility as a Commander and Power 99. We also talk about Brawl as a format with thoughts and criticisms on the format as well. And lastly, we talk about the Commander draft format, which is something new and something for the community.
Yep. I had a really fun time talking to you about this kind of thing. I think, one thing that needs to happen more is probably more Malaysians need to take part and be part of the conversation. We see a lot of people in the US, doing podcasts, doing the command zone and things like that. So I think there's an opportunity. I appreciate this opportunity to really talk about something that I care deeply about.
Yep. So if you enjoyed watching this content, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow us on any of the platforms that we are publishing on. So once again, thank you, Tariq, for joining us for the podcast.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll see you in episode 2.